I want to talk about tomorrow. I want to get a little serious here. Tomorrow, like today is yeah, November 10th. That's when we're recording it, and hopefully, I get this podcast up tomorrow. And tomorrow is November 11th, which is Remembrance Day, and it's a very important day. Uh, and I want to give my thoughts on it. I have several friends in my group that are either ex-military or still in the military that are dealing with stuff that they've dealt with in the military, uh, loss of people that they've worked with, injuries, stuff like that. Remembrance Day is more than just a day off. I remember when I was a kid, I used to look at Remembrance Day as, you know, a day off. Actually, when I was younger, I don't think we had the day off on Remembrance Day because I remember doing the moment of silence at 11 a.m.
11/11 every year.
11:11. Yeah. And I remember that, but the thing is Remembrance Day is very important because you know soldiers have fought in multiple wars, protecting our country, protecting us, our freedoms, like all that stuff. And every time I think about Remembrance Day, I think about something that's very important, and it's actually in the Bible. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down their life for a friend. And
That's awesome.
that's by
That's awesome.
that by itself is what Remembrance Day is all about. It's about all the people that laid their life down. And that's all I really have to say about Remembrance Day. Tomorrow is it. Like whether you're going to have a pint at a Legion or just have a moment of silence to give acknowledgement to the people that have put down their lives. That's it. Like that's the importance to me on Remembrance Day. I know you're going to talk about the poppies in a little bit, and I saw this little kid. He was trying to get a poppy from one of the kiosks at a restaurant, and they ran out of poppies. And I had one on my jacket, and he goes, "I really want one," and I gave him mine. And the mom's like, "No, no, no, you don't need to do that." And I'm like, just put the donation in the thing, and that's fine. I'll give you mine. And it's it's the fact that a little kid, you know, saw that and it's a just a little thing. And if we all do it, if we all do the little things, it does show it because people gave the ultimate sacrifice for like their country, and it's important. And that's my thought on Remembrance Day.
Like Jimmy, I don't think anyone could have said it better, to be honest with you. And it's like these guys are, most of them are sons of immigrants. Like if we're talking about World War II, and like, I mean, Canada played a key role. I mean, you ask people in Holland, about Canada's role and like the way that they celebrate Canadian soldiers, and it's like we were there on D-Day, and we were there. And you know what? Um, there was no draft. There was no draft. There was guys going like we're defending a way of life, and we're not allowing people to take over like the Western world, like in an authoritarian manner. And I like I have two uncles that fought in the war. My uncle Joe that I didn't get to meet, or sorry, Uncle Jim that I didn't get to meet, and my Uncle Bill that I did meet, and he never talked about it, but he had medals from the war, and he never ever ever talked about it. Um, and like we they didn't have we're from Edmonton. Anybody who's listening, we didn't have like PTSD stuff or whatever, but he basically lived at the Cromdale Hotel and went to the track every day, and did his best. Yeah, I'm not saying it was his best, but it's like the guy would not talk about war, but he won medals. Um, and maybe he was just crazy enough to run into the front line. I don't know, but I do know that these guys considered it their obligation to protect our way of life, and I think that our way of life, like the way of life that they like were willing to die for, is like you and me talking right now on this podcast, or anybody else that could grab a mic, or just people that
A
like,
right to do this.
yeah, like to speak freely about whatever
Freedom.
whatever it is. Yeah. And um I've talked a lot with my uncle Bill about a lot of things, but he always said we'll never talk about war. He's like, we'll never talk about war. And he was in war. So Fairfax. I have another friend that went to Somalia and left the yeah, I won't get into that because it's kind of negative, but he served from high school. And okay, in honor of that fella, he was in Somalia and he was part of a UN peacekeeping corps. And the instructions were do not shoot unless shot at, meaning that you oversee aid being presented, and then the people that want the aid get shot, and the guys that are on top of the aid shoot the people. And it's like, as long as they're not shooting at you, you just watch. And this is a soldier that would have impacted positively our Canadian military, and he left because he had nightmares, because he wanted to do something and he couldn't.
Yeah. And
And
like,
I don't want to get more
as I,
political than that.
no, and as I said, I've had friends, like I still have friends that were in the military that are dealing with things like PTSD and depression and stuff caused by what happened in their time with the military. My one of my closest friends, he was a bomb tech. Like he was a bomb disposal, and he saw
Yeah,
things that. And when he, yeah, I don't want to get into the details, but you could tell he's hurting, and
yeah,
because like you can't unsee the stuff that they see. And we couldn't even imagine. Like you could watch all the war movies till you're blue in the face, but we could not imagine what it was like being there, watching your friends, watching your, you know, like even other people, civilians getting hurt or whatever.
yeah.
Like you can't unsee that stuff. And
No, and
I
and
couldn't
that's
even
that's
imagine.
that, and like I'm a Canadian, and we respect all lives, all cultures, and as we should, as equals, not better than, but as equals. And you're serving, and you're a man with a gun in his hand, and you're a witness to people killing other people. Like, and
Yeah,
you can't do
it's,
anything. I mean, honestly, I think that would almost be worse torture than being involved in the fight. Um, but I don't want to get political, but that was like their
but
directives.
so the moral of this podcast, this portion of the podcast is, show respect to our fallen, tomorrow on, or whatever day you're watching this podcast on November 11th, to the fallen soldiers that you may not know, like that, like just people that gave their life. Because as I said, greater love has no one than to lay down their life for a friend. And
or be willing to. And it's not just our fallen, Jimmy. It's the fellows that are like
that is
still
still here.
around, that are both within and without our military today, and like the war fighters that are legitimately wanting to protect our country. Uh, we wear those for them too. And by the way, not for nothing, but the couple judges in Nova Scotia that told people to come into their courts and not wear a poppy, like I'm going to use this platform to tell them to fuck off, because that happened. I don't know if we talked about this, but there were judges in Nova Scotia that people were wearing poppies, and the judges asked them to take them off because it was quote unquote a political symbol.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
No,
I'm glad that you got behind that, because I know we agreed we're not going to get political, and I'm fine with that. I'm all about ideas anyway, but
but
yeah,
the quote I was using is actually from the book of John, John 15:13. Is greater love, this is King James Version, hath no
yeah.
man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. And that is kind of where I was going with that. And that quote is talking about Jesus, but soldiers, protecting others and giving up their life is love.
That same
100%.
purity of belief and the purity of sacrifice for principle is like nothing more than laudable. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, happy Remembrance Day.